It's only been a few months since RedMagic's last flagship, and we already have its successor, the RedMagic 7, which builds on what was already the world's most powerful smartphone. I have all three color variants with me today, which differ in RAM and storage, and of course cater to different consumers due to each version's different design language. RedMagic's main focus is no doubt gaming on the go, and this time round they have increased performance thanks to the inclusion of Qualcomm's latest and greatest 4nm run Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset, increased frame rates thanks to the new Magic GPU 2.0 image enhancement system, increased touch shoulder trigger speed thanks to 500Hz touch sampling rate and 8ms response time, and have also increased cooling thanks to the all-new ICE 8.0 multi-dimensional cooling system and additional air duct placed on the RedMagic 7's backplate. We are treated to a silicon case in the box, a USB Type-C to Type-C charging cable, and a 65-watt gallium nitride charger, which this time round is also bundled in the box. This is TechNick, and this is my extremely detailed, full review of the RedMagic 7. The RedMagic 7 comes in three different color variants, that being Obsidian Black, Pulsar, which is actually a gradient look, and Supernova, which is this time round all out transparent. Starting with the Obsidian Black version, it has RGB lights in the middle of the screen, as you can see there. They are fully customizable, and the bottom LED logo is signature RedMagic Red. The Obsidian color is for those who prefer their gaming a bit stealthy. For those who want to go all out extreme, you can pick up the all new Pulsar version, which looks absolutely incredible. Kind of has like a bluish, purplish tinge in there. It looks absolutely phenomenal. Of course, it has all those RGBs and LEDs on the back, just the same as the black version. And my favorite of all is the transparent version known as Supernova. It has an RGB LED fan and of course that red logo lights at the bottom, but there is no LEDs on either side. However, there is a bunch of writing all around. Do bear in mind that these are stickers. What is not a sticker is that fan, as well as the new back air duct, and that new air duct apparently increases air volume by 35%. Of course, we also have all the goodies in there, such as graphene, space grade materials. The RedMagic 7 has also had an upgrade in terms of cooling performance by improving thermal conductivity over 400 times. And of course, we still have that 2000 revolutions per minute turbo fan. And inside the RedMagic 7 sits a 4500 mAh battery with 65-watt charging, Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset, LPDDR5 RAM, and of course UFS 3.1 storage. The displays are all made of Gorilla Glass 5. We have an aviation aluminum frame wrapping around, as well as a glass back. Inside the camera module on its backplate sits three sensors which are unchanged from last year, that being an 8-megapixel ultra-wide sensor, 64-megapixel main sensor, and 2-megapixel macro camera. Just like last year, the 8-megapixel ultra-wide looks okay, though it is a gloomy day here in Shanghai. 64-megapixel main looks great, even better with AI enabled, binning down to 16 megapixels. We do have 2 times digital zoom when binned down on the main sensor, as well as 5 times, and 10 times is the max zoom, and it looks alright. I mean, you gotta forgive it, this is a gaming smartphone. We also have a macro mode over here, which picks up details nice close up and personal, as well as a portrait mode, which looks more than decent, actually right up there with the best of the best if you ask me in terms of edge detection. We do have 8K 24 FPS video recording, though a bit choppy, the detail is still there, something you'd probably benefit when just standing still recording something, though moving around you can shoot 4K at 60 FPS, which is a nice little bonus over here. It is a gaming phone that can record a superb video. We also have 1080p 60 FPS, but unfortunately we have no video recording options for the ultra-wide camera, which is one of my complaints that I had last year. The back cameras are a bit of a mixed bag, but like I said, we'll have to forgive it since this is predominantly a gaming smartphone. At the bottom of the device, we have a dual SIM 5G tray, though unfortunately no expandable storage, though there is a water resistant seal. We have USB 3.0 Type-C port at the bottom, as well as its first dual speaker, second one at the top in the earpiece, both utilizing DTS-X Ultra. We have a 3.5mm jack at the top, as well as a volume rock on the left hand side, and game space switch, which we've come to know and love from RedMagic. On the left hand side, we also have an intake fan vent, and usually there's only one on RedMagic devices, but this time around we have an extra one at the back, which increases cooling performance overall. We also have an RGB fan on the transparent edition, but that fan is still apparent within the regular versions, and they all can spin at 2000 revolutions per minute. On the right-hand side of the device, we have the exhaust fan vent, same as last year. We also have the power button, which is also pretty similar to last year. And now we have upgraded shoulder triggers, which have increased their touch sampling rate from 450 to 500 Hertz, and their response time from 8.3 milliseconds down to 8 milliseconds for super ultra responsive gaming. We'll get into gaming a little bit later, but I still do like those little indents. On the front, we do have an 8 megapixel selfie camera, once again unchanged from last year. The photos come out more than decent, and I would say no edge detection, which, I mean, there is no problems with edge detection because portrait mode doesn't actually work.
What's up guys, this is Technic recording a 1080p at 30 FPS selfie video on the brand new RedMagic 7. Let me know what you guys think of the audio and video quality when using the selfie cam to record video on the brand new RedMagic 7.
4K selfie video recording would have been nice, and portrait mode would have been nice too, but this phone's about gaming, so let's dig into the software aspect. We still have an in-display fingerprint sensor, still nice and snappy, as well as 2D face unlock, which uses the selfie camera, and we have the same 6.8-inch AMOLED display, which is Full HD Plus and packs in 100% DCI-P3 color gamut rating, DC dimming, 700 nits max brightness, that crazy 165 Hz refresh rate, and of course the over-the-top 720 Hz touch sampling rate. The screen-to-body ratio is also unchanged at 91.28%, and while the 165 Hz refresh rate is phenomenal, you can drop it to 120 or 90 or 60. It is not adaptive, meaning it cannot fluctuate between 1 or 10 all the way up to 165 Hz, but it's still nice and smooth, and the 720 Hz touch sampling rate is a nice touch. We do have a bunch of different screen display preferences in terms of color changing, as well as flicker reduction, which is a nice touch as well, and night light, as well as dark mode, which works as you would expect. Not too many customization options within settings, though dark mode does make the widgets dark as well, and you can use them for third-party apps too. It does a pretty good job in first-party apps as well, and this time we do have RedMagic OS version 5 skinned over Android 12. It is pretty much as stock Android gets in terms of gaming smartphones out there. It has a couple little tweaks over here to cater to your gaming needs. It does so with widgets like we saw last year, very similar widgets to what we saw, as well as pulling in a tab from the right hand side and bringing in a pop-up screen, a floating window, and split screen is there too. All the essentials that you would usually find in a normal phone on a gaming smartphone. We do have Google Discover on the left-hand side, as well as the Play Store and Google Assistant dragging up from the bottom left corner. The haptics are on par with last year's RedMagic 6S Pro, and the dual speakers feature DTS:X Ultra. So let's go ahead and give them a listen. And now it's time to give those speakers a listen while gaming. Before we jump into gaming, it is worth mentioning that there is an active cooling fan inside this guy, and it has 20,000 revolutions per minute. But how about its loudness? Let's go ahead and give it a listen. The quietish cooling fan is great, but let's flick that game switch and hop into GameSpace 5.0, and the new Magic GPU 2.0 can apparently stabilize frames by up to an extra 60%, which we'll test out in a hot sec. But speaking of the features, you can tweak the touch sampling rates as well as show different display filters. There's function allocation, plugin settings. There is just so much to offer in terms of game space over here. We can change the performance levels as well as bring up pop-up windows of different apps. We can change our frame rates on the fly. There is also a performance monitoring tool where you can see your FPS on the go. And we do have charge separation like we saw last year so that you can have your phone plugged in without draining the battery. We also have shoulder triggers with the same features as last year with single press, long press, multi-operation, dual operation, so on and so forth. They work super responsive, even more so than last year, thanks to the increased 500 Hertz touch sampling rates on those triggers themselves. And we do still have macro recording over here. So plugging a bunch of different taps and save it. And then one tap gives you all of those taps. Pretty nifty if you ask me, if you are playing an MMORPG game and jumping into Genshin Impact over here with the highest possible graphics and max FPS. We got very stable frames thanks to the new Magic GPU 2.0 system. We got between 60 and 62 FPS with pretty much no dips whatsoever. Last year's 6S Pro did between 48 and 60. And the average Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 smartphones on my channel range between 34 and 58 FPS. So it's actually good to see that Qualcomm's new chipset is actually performing decent in a smartphone. Thank you RedMagic for that. And moving on to Bullet Force over here, we're getting between 167 and 168 FPS. Once again, exceeding my expectations over here. Last year's 6S Pro got between 145 and 168, and the average Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset on my channel does between 113 and 122, though do bear in mind those panels are usually sitting at around 120 Hertz, where this can go all the way up to 165 Hertz. Speaking of gaming, 165 Hertz gaming that is, Real Racing 3 can go all the way up to 168 FPS as well, with lows only as low as 167 once again, which is a hell of a lot better thanks to the frame stabilizer over here compared to last year's dropping down to 151 FPS. Gaming is absolutely phenomenal, and that is also thanks to the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset, which supposedly has 20% more performance and is 30% more power efficient. But how does that translate into benchmarks? We're going to be running through 3 different benchmarks over here to test out the battery as well as the heat dissipation and of course the scores as well. Checking out the battery percentage and the heat at the start. Once again, we'll compare this at the end, and we will be enabling the cooling fan as well as the Rise performance mode option within every single benchmark. Kickstarting things off here with AnTuTu version 9.2.9, and next up we're going to be focusing on just CPU performance within Geekbench version 5.4.4, and right at the end we're going to be testing out 3D Mark Wildlife just to stress test the GPU, that being the new Adreno 730 integrated graphics. Getting to the battery drain, it drained by 13%, which is actually quite bad. What is good, however, is the temperatures, since it only increased by 15.2 degrees in Celsius, which is a hell of a lot cooler in terms of adding temps at the end of the test when compared to other Snapdragon 8 Gen 1s on my channel, which added 24 degrees in Celsius. And when it comes to AnTuTu, the RedMagic 7 has blown my mind, getting a whopping 1,050,768 points. When it comes to CPU performance within Geekbench version 5 over here, we got a single core score of 1236, which is pretty average in terms of Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipsets, but the multi-core score did pretty good, only getting beat by the iQOO 9 Pro, and it got a score of 3,808 points. And once again, getting me all tingly is its GPU score within 3D Mark Wildlife, getting a score of 10,031 points. The RedMagic 7 not only matches the frame rate of the best scoring phone in this test, but it leaves all other Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 smartphones in the dust. The RedMagic 7 is the perfect example of a smartphone that knows what it's good at, keeps the same winning formula, and improves on things to take it to the next level. No matter the color you decide to pick up, you will be getting a gaming phone that knows it's a gaming phone by going all out in terms of gaming appeal. The transparent version is now completely transparent and includes all the components that makes this device truly stand out. What doesn't really stand out, however, is its camera performance, since all 3 rear sensors are unchanged from last year, and there is still no option for ultra-wide video recording. With that said, the main camera sensor still takes more than decent photos and videos, but come on Team Red, it's time for an improvement in the camera department. The optical in-display fingerprint sensor is still nice and snappy, and RedMagic OS 5 skinned over Android 12 is still a great stock-like Android experience with a few tweaks that caters for your gaming needs. Speaking of gaming needs, we still still have that crazy 165Hz refresh rate, and the display still boasts an impressive 720Hz touch sampling rate. And when paired with brilliant gaming software with the flick of a switch, an improved cooling system, up to 18 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM, 4nm run Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset, and the all-new Magic GPU 2.0 image enhancement system, provides a frame-stabilized gaming experience that more than exceeds my expectations. The display itself, while unchanged, is still a color-popping 6.8-inch AMOLED panel which boasts DC dimming and a more than decent 700 nits of brightness. The device packs in a large enough 4500 mAh battery and supports 65W fast charging when using the included 65W charger that's bundled in the box. And yes, charge separation is still an included feature should you decide to have an extra long gaming session, which makes me more than happy to say that no matter which color variant you decide to pick up, the RedMagic 7 has got all of your gaming needs covered for the foreseeable future.